What's up guys, it's Naf here. Recently I've been doing a lot of Revenants and decided to make this guide for other Ironmen to refer to if they want to try these guys out, because so far I've been pretty happy with the experience. So first off, what are Revenants? They are ghosts found in the Forinthry dungeon. This is located north of Edgeville and west of the wilderness, Lodestone. And yes, it's still in the wilderness even inside this dungeon, so other players can attack you. Along with this, the majority of this dungeon is multi-combat, meaning not only Revenants can attack you, but multiple players can too. So it's never worth risking anything of substantial value that you aren't prepared to lose because of the potential for multiple people to attack, and realistically if that happens you won't survive. Now in saying that, I've done roughly 2,500 Revenant kills over the last 2 days, and I've only ever been attacked by solo PKs, usually wearing Royal D-Hide and a Royal Crossbow, or in low level magic gear with a Polypore Staff, although I stand by only taking gear that you can easily replace. So going more in depth into gear, as an Ironman, my suggestion is to wear the highest craftable gear you can make. So if you're low crafting, you may want to make Carapace gear for ranging or Spider Silk for magic. Realistically speaking, gear doesn't have a huge impact on killing the Revenants because you simply focus on weaker Revenants that you can kill easily. What it will have a big impact on is your ability to survive a PKer. I personally have been using full Royal D-Hide, an Amulet of Glory, Ring of Wealth and a Defense Cape. All of this gear is easily replaced for me, but I have survived every PK attempt so far because more often than not they're wearing similar gear to me. Unfortunately though, as I said, if you're lower level wearing substantially lower level gear, you should expect to die to PKs a lot unless you're very lucky and get away. Now the only item which I'm going to label as essential to kill Revenants is a Forinthry Bracelet. This is a diamond bracelet which is enchanted, so it requires 58 crafting to make and 57 magic to enchant, so this unfortunately is a hurdle I personally believe you can't avoid. This bracelet upon enchanting has 5 charges and each charge can repel Revenants for 1 hour, making them not aggressive to you. Not having this repel effect will result in all of the Revenants piling you, and the high level ones will give you a lot of trouble. Now this repel effect also makes you immune to all Revenant damage for 1 minute. Now that's a nice side effect, but I don't recommend spamming the repel effect every minute because it means you will need to bring and risk a lot of bracelets just to make the trip long enough to actually get loot. Now the next few items aren't essential, but a lot of people will swear by their usefulness, which in my opinion just depends on your outlook on things. We have a Salve Amulet E. This boosts all damage and accuracy by 20% against undead monsters for all combat styles, but requires the completion of the Haunted Mine quest to get the Salve Amulet, and also the mini quest Lair of Tarn Razorlaw to have it enchanted. The second item is the Ghost Hunter outfit. This is acquired randomly when killing ghost creatures, such as Aberrant Spectres or even the Barrow Brothers. This set increases damage to ghosts and is increased for each piece you're wearing. Now the maximum benefit is gotten from wearing 3 pieces of Ghost Hunter, capping out at 10% increased damage to ghosts. So this is optional and will provide you more damage than armor roughly below tier 70 power armor, and is very effective to use at Revenants. Now in saying that, despite having this gear I chose not to use it and preferred my setup in Dragonhide. The reason for this is because there are enough Revenant spawns that you can focus the weaker ones, and after spending some time there you will very quickly come to realise that the Revenants aren't the main threat when killing Revenants. It's actually the people who will try to PK you, and more often than not they will be using magic or range attacks. Now the Ghost Hunter is hybrid gear. It can be used with all 3 styles of combat and scales to either tier 20, tier 50 or tier 70 depending on your defense level. So if you are limited in gear, then I would recommend taking 2 to 3 pieces of Ghost Hunter and then using Protect item when you do get attacked by PKs to make sure your 3 pieces of Ghost Hunter and weapon aren't at risk. Now the final piece of gear I want to highlight is the ring slot. There is a lot of confusion over the Jennica's ring and what it does. This ring is a quest reward from completing the Spirit of Summer quest and doubles the chance of receiving a special drop from Revenants. Now this isn't ancient warrior equipment, brawler's gloves or ancient statues. The special drop is just a unique item that varies for each Revenant. For example, Revenant Dragons can drop Dragon Scimitars, Revenant Knights can drop Amulets of Glory, Pyre Fiends can drop Fire Orbs, and so on. Now on top of that, it's worth noting as well, this ring has no combat stats, so for this reason I would honestly recommend a Ring of Wealth if you have 55 crafting and 68 magic and have the materials to make one. The Ring of Wealth doesn't have an effect on the Revenant's rare drops either, but it does have decent stats for an easily replaced ring, and provides a teleport which can be used at level 30 Wilderness. Now the Revenants vary between level 30 to 32 Wilderness or so it means if you do get PK'd, as long as you don't get teleport blocked instantly, you should be able to run and very quickly be in level 30 Wilderness where you can teleport out. In terms of your inventory, simply bring whatever food you have in your bank, preferably lobster or better. The lower level Revenants don't do much damage to you at all. It'll really just be a case of food will help if someone tries to PK you, or if you try kill some of the higher level Revenants. So moving on to the actual method of killing Revenants. To put it simply, the majority of the Revenants have a very similar drop rate for all of the Ancient Warriors equipment, except for the 3 highest level ones, which are the Revenant Dragons, Revenant Knights, and Revenant Dark Beasts, which I don't recommend killing. So what this means is the goal is to cycle between the lowest level Revenants, killing them as soon as they spawn. So taking a look at the Revenant spawn spots, you want to focus on the following, prioritizing them in this rough order. So we have Revenant Imps, they are level 14 and they have 2 spawns in the instance. The next lowest is Revenant Goblin, they vary from level 16 through to 28 and they have 4 spawns throughout the instance. Next we have Revenant Ice Fiend, it is level 37 and there is 1 spawn. Next we have Revenant Pyre Fiend, it is level 40 with 1 spawn. Next is the Revenant Hobgoblin, that's level 44 with 1 spawn. Next is Revenant Vampire, level 47 with 1 spawn. And lastly, Revenant Werewolf, it is level 53 with 1 spawn as well. Now, I personally never had to kill anything higher than this before the lowest level ones would begin respawning. This will obviously depend on your gear, as I was doing this in tier 65 armor with a tier 78 weapon, so take this with a pinch of salt. If you're using lower level gear, avoid some of the higher ones that I was killing. On that note, if you're a very low level using a very low gear setup, you may choose to hop worlds after killing the Revenant Imps and Goblins, because hopping will be faster than struggling to kill higher level Revenants. Now the main reason you don't want to try kill something too high for your gear is because when they reach 50% health and lower, they will begin to heal for every tick of damage they take. This essentially means you want to avoid fast attacking weapons which hit for smaller amounts, such as short bows, daggers, wands, and so on. This also means that two-handed weapons are the most effective types of weapons to use. This also means you need to manage your threshold and ultimate abilities and use them when they're at 50% health or lower. This obviously will vary depending on your gear. In higher setups, you can virtually kill the weaker Revenants within 1 to 2 attacks. Now, onto the reason as to why do you want to kill these things. Well, Revenants have a chance of dropping a variety of loot, including Brawler's Gloves, Ancient Statues, Corrupted Dragon Gear, and 4 different sets of tier 78 gear. Now, unfortunately, all of this gear does degrade to dust. As an Ironman in members, there isn't much value in the Corrupted Dragon. It is designed for free-to-play PKing because it's the only dragon gear that they can use for non-members, but it also degrades to dust very quickly through use. Now for the tier 78 gear, there are 4 different sets. We have Statius's, which is melee, Vesta's, which is melee, Morrigan's, which is ranged, and Zuriel's, which is magic. Now unfortunately it comes in 2 versions, a corrupt version and a standard version. The corrupt version is a tier 65 set and requires 40 defense to use, but it does degrade to dust in 15 minutes of wearing it. For this reason, the corrupt gear is seen as junk. The standard version, on the other hand, is tier 78, which requires 78 defense and 78 in the combat style that it is. Now this gear degrades to dust after 100,000 charges have been used, which sounds pretty bad and not worth it, but realistically you can expect anywhere between 17 to 56 hours of use in combat. Now that does depend on the type of combat you're engaging in and how many targets are hitting you, as well as how many you are hitting. On top of that, these non-corrupt pieces of tier 78 gear can be upgraded to tier 88 superior versions using an Ancient Warriors equipment patch, which is a reward from Bounty Hunter. Along with that, as stated earlier, you can also get Brawling Gloves. These gloves increase experience gains by 50% in the skill they are for, and up to 300% bonus experience if you're in the wilderness, depending on how deep you are within the wilderness. And the last item of note that can drop from Revenants are Ancient Artifacts. These are items which have no actual use, but can be traded into Mandrith, who is in Edgeville Bank, for gold. The value of these can range between 5k to 5 million gold each. So to summarize the loot, there's a lot of potential to get powerful gear up to tier 78 in armor and weapons, and also a lot of gold going up to 5 million if you are lucky. But the majority of the drops are pretty much useless, and it comes down to if you're the type of person to stay persistent until you get good loot, or if you're just flat out lucky. Now I did just want to make a mention to a few extra things that are relevant to killing Revenants. First to mention is the Hellfire Bow. This is a tier 99 bow which requires 90 range to equip, which appears randomly around the wilderness, meaning you can use an extremely powerful weapon without having to risk any of your own bank. It also doesn't require any ammunition. Now the downsides are, if you're using this bow, it will broadcast your location in the chat box to anyone else in the wilderness, making you an easy target for anyone who is actually looking for a fight, and for this reason I can't actually recommend spending time trying to find this weapon. Next is the Revenant Drop Enhancer. This is a reward from the minigame Deathmatch, which can be found northeast of Edgeville Bank. Now this provides roughly a 10% increased chance at getting a rare drop from Revenants, which does include all the armors, corrupted and standard, and all of the statues. For this reason, I actually don't recommend going for this. It does take between 20 to 30 minutes to farm the points to buy this item, and that's assuming you have a friend to die to you continuously. And realistically, getting loot from Revenants isn't actually hard. It's getting loot which is actually good, which is the hard part, and this item doesn't help with that at all. So I do believe you're better off just spending more time at Revenants and trying your luck. The other big factor which makes this item not worth it is it isn't protected on death, meaning you have more to lose if a PKR does manage to kill you. Similar to the drop enhancer is the Elite Wilderness tasks. This rewards the exact same thing but only an increase of 5% to the Revenant drops. Given it has the same issue of not actually increasing your chance at good loot, if you have completed them then great, it'll help out by 5%, but it definitely isn't worth the time to grind out the requirements just to complete these elite tasks before killing the Revenants. And the last thing I wanted to make a special mention to is loot beam settings. It's something easily overlooked, but essentially the loot's pretty hard to see with the environment around Revenants, and depending on your gear you'll find yourself running around very quickly killing the weaker ones in a few hits, and you'll move on before the loot actually shows up. Now I don't recommend picking up the gold, it's usually only a few hundred and it can't go into your coin pouch, so if you get PK'd you'll drop that as well. But for this reason you want the loot beam to be set to go off when anything drops that pretty much isn't coins, as some of the rare drops don't have a particularly high value. So obviously this is your choice and it's just a preference of mine, but if you do go to your gameplay settings and click loot settings, you can change the minimum amount. I put it at 5000 GP, so this means there will be a loot beam no matter what rare drop comes from the Revenants. Now unfortunately this will mean their drops such as Bloodweed Seeds and other sort of junky drops will set off a beam. Now this is good in the sense that you won't miss the item because it's a small item and it's hard to see, but it's very sad getting excited to see a beam thinking you may have gotten good armor, but then in fact it's just a seed, so that's obviously up to you. But that's pretty much for this guide. If you think I missed anything or have more to add, feel free to post it in the comments to help others out. I do plan on continuing Revenants and we'll probably do a loot video at around 5 to 10,000 Revenant kills, depending on my luck with the loot of course. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do want to see more Iron Man guides. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah.